Hey everyone, Happy New Year and welcome back to my channel. In 2021, I happened to read an exceptional amount of books for me, and I just wanted to share with you some of those books in this video. I know that some of you here also follow me on Instagram and have been following along on the different books that I've read, probably in the second half of the year, because that's kind of when I feel like I started sharing a little bit more about what I was currently reading, and I have gotten a lot of DMs about what I'm currently reading, if I have any book suggestions, and so I thought it would just make the most sense if I kind of tied it all up in one video here. So in the description, I will link a blog post where I pretty much just list out all 48 books that I read in 2021. I thought it would be a little bit too much to talk about each individual book here in this video, so I just wanted to talk about several of them that I either really enjoyed, found surprising in some kind of way, like I feel like other people would really like these particular books as well, but also some books that I found that were helpful to me in case it might be helpful to you as well, and that's kind of more surrounding the professional development kind of realm. Before we get started, I just wanted to make a quick mention that most of the books that I read are actually on Kindle. I do read ebooks most often, and really for me it's just kind of like ease and I guess how it's compact and it can kind of travel along with me. So I do have a Kindle Paperwhite, which I don't have just right with me at this very moment, but it's the one that basically the screen kind of mimics the look of actual paper, and it is backlit, so if I were in a room that didn't have a lot of lighting, like I'm reading at night, and I didn't want to like leave a lamp on or anything like that, then I would be able to read the text really clearly. It's lit so that I can do that. And one of the reasons why I really like the Kindle is because it does sync to the Kindle app on my phone, so I can easily go back and forth. Like I don't have to feel like I'm forced to carry the Kindle around with me in case I want to open up the book that I'm currently reading and continue on. Like let's say for example when I'm getting my hair done or something like that, it makes it really easy that I can just bring my phone along with me and pick up the book just like that. In 2021, I also explored listening to audiobooks, which is something that I've never really done before. And the reason why I haven't done that in the past is because a lot of times when I'm listening to something like an audiobook or the radio or music or something like that, I'm driving or doing something else where my attention really needs to be on, you know, the task at hand. And I do feel like whenever I'm listening to something, because it is more like music and something in the background, I'm not really paying attention to what's going on there, and so I haven't really trained my brain at the time, I guess, to pay more attention to what I'm listening to rather than just keep it on. So in the beginning, when I started listening to podcasts and some of these audiobooks, they were just kind of on and I wasn't really absorbing anything from that because I was preoccupied with doing something else. But I will say that after a few months, I got a little bit more used to it. So now I am able to listen to audiobooks while driving or folding laundry or some other easy tasks, and I'm still able to take some, you know, information away. I do kind of pick and choose which audiobooks I prefer to listen to because I'm aware of how much attention I may or may not pay attention to, you know, what I'm listening to. So that's kind of how I pick and choose what format I typically read books. So with that being said, I don't have every single book here to actually show you on the screen, so I will insert a screenshot of what the book cover looks like in case you are wondering. But like I mentioned, I will leave a link down in the description to a blog post where I list all 48 books that I read. In case you want to see what that book list is, need some ideas for what you might want to read in 2022 or beyond, I hope that's helpful for you. All right, so let's get into it. Like I mentioned, this is more so a highlights video of some of the books that I read. The first one that I'm going to mention is actually one of the very first books that I read in 2021. I'm so happy that I kept a running list as I was finishing books. I just added it to this list that I had because I totally would have forgot that I read this book about a year ago. So the first book that I had on my list, or one of the first, was Queen's Gambit, and this is when the Netflix show was getting really popular. I think it might have already been popular by that time, but I decided that I wanted to read the book first before I actually watched the series on Netflix. And at that time I had started a book club with a few friends who were meeting online virtually, and so we were all interested in reading the Queen's Gambit. So I really enjoyed reading this book, and it actually is very similar to the series. So I think it, it's just up to you if you want to read and watch it, or if you just want to go ahead and watch it. Most things I would say are pretty much the same. One thing that I will point out though is because I read the book first, and I'm not an avid chess player, I don't know very much about chess, to be honest with you, as far as like tactics, techniques, and like where people are moving the pieces around and why. So reading the book actually was quite difficult. I didn't really understand those sections because they do talk about and describe what's going on the board as the main character is playing these chess games. So that was really confusing, and I did find myself just kind of like looking over it really quickly and then moving on to the actual storyline. And then when I watched the Netflix series, I did see, the similarities, and it was much more easy for me to understand what was going on. But of course, at that point, I didn't have the book and I wasn't referring back to it. So yeah, I just wanted to point that out in case anyone's interested in reading the book. And something that I forgot to mention, because I know right now I said I didn't have the book anymore, I have been borrowing books from the library through different apps on my phone. So right now I am most consistently using the Libby app, and the Libby app basically like connects to your local library, for example, just so you have a library card there, and you're able to borrow audiobooks audiobooks and ebooks just like as if it were a physical hard copy book. So I only had 21 days to read The Queen's Gambit, and after that I had to return it. So I think by the time I started watching the show, that had already expired. So in case you're looking for a more cost-effective way to read books or even listen to audiobooks, I do find that some of these library apps do have quite a wide selection for you to choose from. So that might be something you want to consider. The next two books that I want to mention, I actually did go ahead and buy the hard copies of them. So I bought Influencer and 1 Million Followers. And if you've been following me along here on YouTube and over on Instagram, this probably makes a lot of sense to you why I read these two books. And the reason why I purchased them is because I thought that they might have some good takeaways that I might want to note and take a look back on, or maybe even like write notes in these books. I'm not really a person who writes notes in my books. I don't know, I just like to keep it in really good condition. But in this case, I felt like there might be some things that I might want to take a look at again. And so that's the reason why I purchased these books. I initially started reading this as an ebook on Kindle. I think I had borrowed it from the library, and then partway through I felt like it was sharing some pretty good information with me, so I went ahead and bought it. I will say that these are pretty specific. I don't think everybody wants to read these books necessarily, but if you are kind of in the realm of social media influencing or anything like that, these might be useful to you. If you are very savvy and have been kind of like in this industry for a long period of time, you might not find a lot of value because you probably have already experienced a lot of things that are mentioned in these two books anyway. But if you're someone who's new at it, I think it has a lot of really good information. It may or may not be outdated at this point because I know things online are changing constantly and all the time, but I did find that they're helpful. I do also feel like there is a little bit of sort of like business savviness that are included in these books too. So if you're like new in your career, like early on in your career, these might be good to read if you're looking for, some kind of professional development related information. When I came across those, I felt like that they were good reminders, but there were things that I already knew. So 3 fiction books that I read this year were The Midnight Library by Matt Haig, The Stationery Shop by Marjan Kamali, I hope I'm saying that correctly, and Radar Girls by Sarah Ackerman. And I really liked these books. I felt like they were really easy to read. They had good pace to them. And so if you're looking for something like that, I would definitely recommend checking them out. The Midnight Library is a little bit more fantasy-esque, I guess. I don't think it's too out there, but it definitely happens in sort of like a dream sort of feeling. The Stationery Shop is something that feels a little bit more real life and kind of takes you behind the scenes in this particular story of a girl who frequents a stationery shop. And I honestly liked Radar Girls because the author is from Hawaii, and she does make a lot of references to things around here on Oahu that I'm familiar with, because it was nice to be able to imagine where she was and actually know where that is and have a good like picture of like what's going on there. And that's the reason why I like that. So if that's kind of a feeling that you feel like you're searching for every once in a while, I'd highly recommend looking into books that maybe take place wherever you live or in a city that you really like. But Radar Girls goes back in time to a Pearl Harbor kind of era, and there are a few girls who work in like a radar station for a military. But yeah, I thought it was really cool because those are topics that I'm not really familiar with, but it was good to have, you know, a point of reference when they're talking about different areas. And last, I wanted to mention 2 nonfiction books. So one is Everything is Figure Outable by Marie Forleo. And Marie actually does a lot of like online presence kind of like workshops and things about everything is figure outable, like figuring things out, taking the next step, and making some movement on things that you might want to be working on. And a lot of it has to do with like entrepreneurship or lifestyle, confidence, and things like that. I felt like I had a lot of takeaways from Everything is Figure Outable. And it's interesting for me to talk about that because I feel like I've had a lot of opportunities to practice this, like going into a situation where I don't know a lot about whatever it might be and then figuring it out along the way and feeling really good about it. But for me, it was a good reminder to read this book because I also sometimes forget that me figuring one thing out, like the method in which I did that and the capacity that I have to do that, also translates to other situations as well. And so that really is the most important message that I feel like I took away from reading that book. And I have recommended it to other people as well who really enjoyed reading it too. And the second nonfiction book that I wanted to mention is What I Know for Sure by Oprah. And also, you know, again, this was another great reminders book about lessons that Oprah has learned along the way. I know a lot of her books are really popular, and there's another one that I have in my queue. I'm waiting for it to become available through the library, and I'm looking forward to reading that as well. All right, well, thank you so much for watching this video. Like I mentioned, I wanted it to be a quick highlights video that I wasn't giving too much away in, but let me know down in the comments if you have any questions, and feel free to click the link in my description if you want to see the expanded list of all 48 books that I read this year. Of course, on that list of 48, there are a variety of amazing books. It's just that these were the ones that stood out the most to me, either were the most memorable or I felt like they were great takeaways. But overall, I really enjoyed all of the books that I read. One thing that I learned through this process of reading in 2021 and also being included in a book club is that different people have different tastes in the types of books that they read. And sometimes when you start reading something, it takes about halfway through before it really starts rolling and getting really interesting. Actually, another book came to mind. I didn't write it down, so I hope I'm saying it correctly, but it's Clara and the Sun, and I think the author is Kazuo Ishiguro, and sorry if I made a mistake there, but you can definitely find that information on my book list. But that was another book that was kind of like a very different perspective, and I feel like it did really start picking up a lot about halfway. So I thought that was very interesting for me to see with a few of the books that I read last year, and it just kind of, you know, I mean, is a different kind of mindset or perspective that sometimes you need to just continue pushing through and things will turn around and things get a lot more interesting. If you have read any interesting books or are looking forward to reading any interesting books in the future, please let me know down in the comments because I definitely am looking forward to reading more in 2022. On the Kindle app, I'm able to set some reading insights, and right now I have it set for, I think I put it at 25 books for 2022. I'm not trying to push myself to read 50 books almost like I did last year, but I want to have a little bit more variety this year. So a quick overview about what I'm planning to read in 2022. I'm planning to read one business related book, either about like coaching, professional development, or something of the sort, and another leisure book. It would be anything that my book club is reading because we do pick one book a month. And then if I read anything in addition to that, then it's just kind of a bonus. So far, I have finished one book this year. I'm listening to 2 audiobooks, and I just started reading the business book that I want to read for January. So yeah, getting a little bit ambitious with these reading things, but I have felt like that I've been learning a lot and there are a lot of good takeaways. All right, well, thank you so much for watching this video. If you want to see more videos like this, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and click that notification bell so that you're notified when the next video is posted. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.